Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
One of the risers from last year to this year, defensive tackle Kevin Givens, undrafted free agent out of Penn State that's kind of found his way in his place in the NFL. He was at number 51 on our roster countdown last year, now to number 38. This guy started 11 games for the 49ers last year in just what was a major injury-riddled season at the defensive tackle position. But let's dive into Kevin Givens. Let's have some fun learning about who this kid is. And he's a fun player. Shout out to Josh, 49ers Guru, for the research on this episode. Kevin Givens wears number 90 out there. 6'1", 285, very much on the small side as a defensive tackle. The Niners have two types of defensive tackles. The big gap stuffing, take on the double team anchor defensive tackles. Then they got the little penetrating, cause problems, just mess stuff up defensive tackles, and that's where Kevin Givens is. He is a matchup dependent defensive tackle that has some very bad games and has some very good games. It's very rare that he's in the middle of like a PFF rankings. He's either great or bad. It's just what it is. In an ideal world, with a lot of defensive tackles healthy, you could kind of pull him or play him more depending upon the matchup. However, the Niners have not had that luxury with health. Again, 6'1", 285, 32 and an eighth inch arms. That is in the bottom 8% of defensive tackles in the NFL. Very short arms. Trent Baalke would be furious. But anyway, 26 years old. He ran a 5.08 40. That's really good. 159 10 cone. Very good. He burst. That's what this guy brings. And his best metric was the bench press, 32 reps. That's top 87 percentile of defensive tackles in the NFL. You type in his measurables, and again, the Niners have a type. His number one comp is Maurice Hurst. They were the same damn guy. They really, really were. Maurice Hurst just couldn't stay healthy. Ed Oliver, Grady Jarrett, Dominique Easley, these undersized, explosive, good leverage players, that is where he fits. Now, all those players I mentioned were kind of top draft picks. Kevin Givens wasn't. Undrafted free agent from Penn State that's just kind of had to fight and claw his way for everything that he's gotten in the NFL. Now, another thing that's interesting, he's entering into his fifth season. However, his first year he didn't play. So that didn't count as an accrued season. So this is technically his fourth season, even though he's been with the 49ers for 5 years. The Niners rewarded him. They gave him a pretty good contract when they didn't have to as a restricted free agent. Now, grew up in Pennsylvania, played at Altoona High School, the Mountain Lions, and so then he goes to Penn State, the Nittany Lions. So he's got a little bit of a track record there. Majored in criminology, which I love, 3-star recruit. While he was in high school, Kevin Givens played defensive end and fullback, and the body type kind of tells that story, right? I was a defensive tackle / fullback. As a senior in high school, first team All-State on defense and rushed for 317 yards and 6 touchdowns. Finished ranked by 24/7 Sports, the 16th best prospect out of Pennsylvania. Then he goes and receives the Jim O'Hara Award in 2018, which is given to the defensive player on Penn State's team for exemplary conduct, loyalty, interest, attitude, and improvement. He's the exact guy you want to build around. And the Niners have shown him that they value him. They paid him probably more than they had to. We'll dive into the contract here in a little bit, but the dude's he just seems to be a good dude. You don't hear anything bad about him, all those things. I mean, 11 starts last year, by far his best year in the NFL. Now, just looking at last year, he played in 13 games, started 11 of those. 2 sacks, 20 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. That's kind of the big one. Like, if he gets the opportunity to slash, he is very successful. You play him against a team that runs duo, where it's a power running game and they're just going to double team the tackles, he's going to get blown up consistently. And we saw that almost all of last year. He played 428 snaps for the 49ers last year, and they try to keep him mostly on pass rush. 178 run snaps, 248 pass snaps. They want that to be even more leveraged to the pass side. Now, the PFF score is not kind to him, 45 overall. And the big reason for that, he got a 37.8 run defense grade. He just can't stand up to double teams. If you watch that very first game of the preseason against the Raiders, he just got blown off the ball continually. Double team, double team, double team. It happened last time we played the Raiders too in the regular season. Like, that's just not his game. It's not. You put him against a zone style team that's moving side to side instead of front and back, he's going to be great. Now, the positive, 76.2 tackling, which is crazy for a guy with that short arms. 62.3 pass rush, very good. 37 special team snaps. I mean, he's a good player, and he's a role player. Now, last year, he had to play up to starting level snaps. That's not what you want him to do. He had 327 defensive tackle snaps, 101 edge snaps. You don't want that. You want this dude at about 250 and use him sparingly. Now, you got him as an undrafted free agent. You've held on to him for 5 straight years. Because he was, a restricted free agent, they tendered him and gave him a 1-year, $2.1 million deal for this year currently, which is awesome. Love to see people get paid. Next year, he'll be an unrestricted free agent. One of the many, Chris Kocurek, projects that get sent out into the world, and hopefully he goes and gets paid and makes some money somewhere else. Because if you look at what his role is with the 49ers currently, I think he's the number 4 defensive tackle. Right? You got Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, that's 1, 2. You got Kinlaw, that's 3, but Kinlaw and Kevin Givens, they're the second team tackles, but they're completely different players. They're not even close to the same type of people. Their builds are different, their play styles, they're just different, but they do play the same spot. Now, can some of the young pups catch up with him? Spencer Waggy, can, Kalia Davis finally get healthy and play? We haven't seen that even get close to pressing this guy yet for that spot. And I'll be honest with you, even if he was the number 5 defensive tackle on this team, he's making the roster. That contract says he is making the damn roster. There's no doubt about it. So I'm excited for him to finally be used in a way in which benefits him and the team together. And there's a role for that on the team. Now, when injuries happen, he's got to do things that he's not built to do. And so he will be a matchup-dependent player that I think sometimes will get 28 snaps a game and sometimes will get 12 based on the type of team you are playing against. And if the Niners can use him correctly, then I think it's going to pay huge dividends. I'm excited to have this guy. These are the type of players that aren't sexy, don't get the headlines, none of those things, but make such a big difference in a football team. The great depth and playmaking ability from a number 4 defensive tackle, man, I'm excited. Plus, he's going to get paid next year. Come on, man. Go get it, Kevin Givens. You deserve it all. And for us, we'll just keep counting them down.